what are they doing down there? Are they up for it? They could be doing a drill where they're really hitting off each other and like, Jesus.
1, 2, 3,
yeah. And then you get everyone in a huddle. Lads, they're up for it and we're not.
Spirit's flat here, lads.
We're flat.
Oh yeah, we're either flat or there's too much talking going on.
All the same old talk goes on in every team in the country, doesn't it?
Mickey Hart here, you're listening to the GAR Football Show.
The GA Hour with Colin Parkinson is brought to you by Paddy Power, home of the Money Back Special.
I'm not finished yet, it took me a long time to get here.
Alright lads, so we mentioned this on Monday about Padraic Clifford potentially getting onto the Kerry team next week, and then some quotes from David, his brother, who we all know very well, appeared. This was in The Independent. Colin Keys had this, and he was talking about his brother, and he said obviously he's disappointed not to be involved with Kerry in the last year or two, but he didn't let that get to him. He's playing ridiculous football again this year, and he's made myself and Dara Roach's job fairly easy inside when he's able to pick us out with passes from 30 or 40 years. It's great to see him getting recognition. He hasn't had any break in his career so far. Hopefully this will be the one. And then a classic on Peter Keane. I don't want to cause trouble and say, whoa, what does he mean by this? I think he just kind of said it. It's hard to know what Peter Keane is thinking, but you can't do much more than besides getting man of the match in a county final. So he's done all he can, and that's true. Like, I mean, who do we say that? Keane Johnson in Offaly, you were dominating a county final. You're ready for the county team. Like, I mean, what more standard do you need within the county to do it? Hasn't had much luck. He's put massive time into his game, according to David. Physicality wise, he's a burly kind of physical centre half forward, well able to kick a point. And I don't know too much about him. I didn't know he was too much into the 30 or 40 yard kick passes, but that, if you've got now Sean O'Shea's number 11 tied up, so he's going to have to maybe change himself into a wing forward who can get into the physical side of it, drop back, and if you have a wing forward that can spray a few passes, do you know what I mean? There is a wing forward spot on the Kerry team up for grabs. You have Adrian Spillane, Dermot O'Connor, Gavin White. I mean, Adrian Spillane, you could say, is nailed down one, or midfield. Like, then it was Gavin White or Dermot O'Connor. Paddy Clifford.
Number 12 is nailed down with Stephen O'Brien.
Stephen O'Brien has that,
Sean O'Shea beside that too. But
well, Adrian Spillane actually, funny enough, in the All-Ireland went back wing back to Mark Brian Howard, so there was a bit of a weird reshuffle there in that one. But there's definitely one wing forward spot. Stephen O'Brien, Sean O'Shea are nailed on. Well, Stephen O'Brien could still play in the corner, but there is a spot. I like the look of Paddy Clifford.
Yeah, he did play alongside Sean O'Shea. He was wing forward at UCC, so Sean O'Shea
he's meant to be an outstanding for UCC in the Sigerson.
Yeah, the problem with Kerry, like you're saying, like Sean O'Shea might have to move or whatever. Like Keane likes to.
Oh no, I didn't say Sean O'Shea would have to change.
Oh,
no,
sorry.
Sean O'Shea is at number 11.
Yeah, well, the problem is that there's the Kerry sort of play two half forwards and two droppers, right? So Sean O'Shea and Stephen O'Brien. It's very hard to get into that 45.
Well, Sean O'Shea drops a bit as well, doesn't he?
Yeah,
I think
can
Paddy play that drop and roll? Maybe he can. Like, he is combative.
Yeah, so then you're looking at Adrian Spillane and Gavin White. If he can do that, if he can do that work, if he's physical enough, he's strong enough, certainly.
But you're talking now about making the starting 15. I mean, like, he wasn't even in the panel at the start of the year, and apparently eyebrows were raised because how good he was for UCC and how good he's been for East Kerry. So it looks, after all this, how well he's performed for East Kerry, and especially with when David Clifford says there's a guy out there that's good at passing the ball to me, get him in the team. What's he going to say, especially if David is going to be Kerry captain next year? So I would be very, very surprised if he's not involved in some way come the league.
And I do love, never had a brother. I like this kind of loyalty that the brothers, like, he's looking after his brother. That's a pretty good recommendation there, isn't it? That's just 100%. An incredible reference for your brother. So yeah, he's 23. It's a weird one. There usually is lads in the county that have never really, made that breakthrough for whatever reason or another. We know kind of injuries maybe might have kind of held him back, or for whatever reason. Sometimes managers just don't fancy certain players, and maybe Peter Keane doesn't fancy him. You don't know.
Like, Kerry have a lot of forwards. I wrote down
Connor
12.
Cox wasn't even in the lookout, and he's a top class.
Tony
player.
Brosnan. Like, they already have, I think, 12 like people who have been playing regularly for them. Yeah. And now we're talking about Paddy Clifford. We always talk about Tony Brosnan. Like,
Tony Brosnan is another Connor Cox if he goes to any other county outside of Dublin,
Yeah, so is Paddy Clifford.
Like, the points Tony Brosnan kicked in the county final, the first two, they're top drawer points.
Yeah.
So maybe it is, Kerry just have so many different brilliant players. Maybe it's not too much of a surprise. I think he'll be in there next year. Talk about one player being in, another out. Matty Donnelly. Like, Matty Donnelly's now out for 6 months. In fairness, it's the best time ever in the year to get be put out for 6 months because he's gone, over Christmas, the next 3 months, maybe the break will do him no harm, as they say. What I find just incredible is Donnelly suffered a serious hamstring injury while on duty for Trillick against Derry. A scan revealed the severity of the damage done. Speaking to the Irish News, Donnelly confirmed that one of the tendons from his hamstring had become detached. He came back on in that match.
Yeah. What? And the worst thing is now he must have done it after. He obviously did it after he came back on. So he had some of the damage done, and then he came back on, and obviously severely
did it even worse.
He might have had a grade 2 or grade 3, and now he's looking at 6 months out. I just wonder, because he said it's detached. So the only
so maybe he damaged it
off the bone. It's
off the tendon is off the bone. That's not the muscle. So there's a difference. Maybe the tendon you can still function.
The bone is the problem.
Because the only one I'm comparing it to Tommy Welsh. I'm comparing it to Paul Conaill. If it's 6 months, it's obviously not that, because they were out for way more than 6 months.
They were out for a year, but maybe the severity of it, maybe the corner of it has come off. Rather than Tommy Walsh, the whole thing just came off, and then you have 3 different hamstrings. Maybe Tommy Walsh's middle one, the biggest, strongest one, could have been. Yeah, there's different parts. So he must have got injured, gone off, and then because the game went to extra time, we need you, Matty, we need you. And Matty should know at his age not to be going back on, especially with a hamstring injury. And maybe he did that then again. I actually went on to try and text him and ask him, and he hadn't been on the WhatsApp number I had since last July, so I went, all right, he must not be using that. But that must have been what happened. Like,
did
you're not
coming. The turnover in the last play.
He was turned over
as well. Yeah,
he was turned over. I think he took a short kick out and he slipped.
No surprise when he's a severe hamstring.
Conaill Jones. Maybe it's when he slipped that time. That's when it did happen, and he coughed up the ball.
I think this is a good thing for Tyrone and for you, Willie, because what is Tyrone's best full forward line? Cathal McShane and Matty Donnelly. What are you going to do with a player who hasn't been playing for 6 months but he's class, and you still want to get him in your championship team? You put him in the full forward. So Tyrone are going to stumble upon this full forward line come championship time because Matty Donnelly won't have any games under his belt.
They'll do that anyways. The America's in next year. I'd say it's guaranteed that the two of them play. And they're all, no, maybe McShane and Lee Brennan, or McShane and Dara Canavan are the partnership with the advanced mark. Staying around him, Dara. Staying around him. Maybe they may play a big man, small man, in the league next year. Dara Canavan has to make that step up now soon enough anyways.
Matty Donnelly is so explosive though. I just hope that such a severe hamstring injury doesn't affect that, and that could affect him if he's going to be playing in the inside line, which would be all about those explosive movements. But fingers crossed he'll be okay. He'll have those 6 months to recover. Yeah,
exactly. So Tomás O'Shea and Ger Brennan, our own Ger Brennan, have been complaining about the third level competitions, Fitzgibbon and Sigerson. They're two football men, so we'll just talk about the Sigerson for now, but it obviously applies to both. So we know now the Sigerson there's no back door in the Sigerson, which there was. Fitzgibbon may be the same. It's starting off on the 11th of 12th of January, and the final will be finished on January the 29th. The other change is that the under-21 championship was run off in June, July and August. That's going to start in February, and they're talking about having the finals of them, wait for it, on St. Patrick's Day, or the semi-finals if they get to that stage. So they must be going to play off the under-21 championship as a straight knockout, bang, 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 3 provincial games, All-Ireland semi-final, final, and maybe try and wrap it up around Paddy's Day, because Paddy's Day is obviously completely free now that the club finals are moved into July. So the lads are both complaining about this. Tomás O'Shea said third level is being treated as a nuisance by people who, it seems, don't recognise how much it means to those involved. And Ger Brennan is saying UCD have roughly 600 students involved in Gaelic games. That includes 42 student coaches and administrators. We field 19 teams and also have a handball club. We're a massive presence in the biggest university in the country. Around 30% of third level institutions have their exams after Christmas in January. What you're doing by squeezing the Sigerson Cup into January, you're putting immense pressure on the student during this period. So, I accept that. But for me, this is it's 30% of students will be put out by this. They'll have a game one weekend on the 11th and 12th, and then they'll have the finals towards the end of January. Will they be finished for exams? When do you put it on? Do you know what I mean? What's the solution? It can't be in February and March. We're complaining about it's clashing with inter-county games. In April, it's going to be April for clubs that can't go there. the only place to put it really is in January, maybe January to start of February. Start the league a little bit later. Again, all this is in the context that this is this year, and next year with the third levels in as a representative on the fixtures task committee, that this will be ironed out to suit the third levels and everybody will have a say in it. But I just found, like, I mean, I can see where the lads are coming from, but like, what's the alternative? Have Kieran Molloy playing 2 games in the one day and the same day Sigerson final? I don't know. To me, this looks like a decent change. We did a piece on the show here last year with Billy O'Loughlin, the Laois under-20 manager, and last year the under-20s crossed over the Leaving Cert. Now they're complaining that it's going to be on just before the Leaving Cert mocks. You can't keep everybody happy. It's impossible. I'd prefer it to cross over the mocks than the actual Leaving Cert. You know, like, I mean, so here's the Leaving Cert is on from the 5th of June to the 25th of June. So when do you play the under-20 then? Either you play it early in the year and under-20s can't play league, right? And it might interfere with the mocks. But you look at under-20, that only affects lads under first year under-20. There's lads under second year under-20 won't be doing any mocks. So if you're doing mocks and you're taking your Leaving Cert really seriously, just don't play under-20 that year. If that's what that's what your issue is. So when do you put it on? So if you avoid the Leaving Cert, you have to wait till the 25th of June to start it. Now it's in July and August, when a lot of clubs will be out of the senior championship, want to start their club championships. Do you know, like, it's not, listen, when all these stakeholders sit in this room and try and iron out a championship season, it's impossible to please everyone.
Yeah.
The only thing we can hope for is that the people in the room have come to a consensus that this is the best possible thing based on what everyone's needs are.
Yeah, and if you're going to play for different teams and different age groups and different codes, and that is the risk. It's not perfect. You can't fit it all in. You're going to lose somewhere. And it's not that different to what it was in 2019. So
no.
It started in January 18th this year, and it finished in February 20th. You had a bit longer to go, but it only started a week later than it will start this January. Yeah. So nobody was crying about like exams and all then.
The problem is, like, I mean, it is pretty much the same as last year, and the new restructure will do away with the pre-season competitions in January and give January exclusively to third level. Or January and the first 2 weeks of February. And isn't that perfect? Start your league in mid-February then and not cross over that, right? And as your league starts, start your under-20. There is no solution to the mocks.
Yeah.
Who cares about the mocks? Like, come on, like, if you're talking about, you're really looking for a whinge if you're talking about the mocks.
Yeah. I suppose, like, the good thing about it as well, I suppose, that like when the Sigerson takes place in January and the task force review committee meeting not long after that, it'll be in the spotlight, and the importance of not marginalising the Sigerson and Fitzgibbon Cups, that'll be very much on the agenda, and that's the most important thing. And I think Tomás O'Shea that's what he was mainly getting at, because he was talking about fearing that it would go the way of the Railway Cup, that gradually over time the Railway Cup became less and less important to the extent that it barely mattered at all, and that can't happen. Like, you've spoken on this show often enough, Willie, about the importance of Sigerson Cup and what it does for your development as a player, and just like the camaraderie in terms of developing friendships with people from other counties and stuff like that. So I think that's the most important message. As long as the Sigerson Cup isn't like at the moment, it's a nightmare. There's no solution, under the current structure. But as you said, that task force committee, good luck to them. But I think that it will be a priority to make that, whether it's all of January, but that Sigerson doesn't get marginalised.
The great thing about Sigerson, and it's like, it gets no media attention. It's played midweek when supporters are working. It at the moment, for me, it's marginalised. It's not taken as a serious competition by the media, by supporters. Supporters can't go to it. The only people who go to it are some students that might have some spare time if it's a home game in your college, and they'll line up and watch it, and it's often freezing cold, so they won't go. So at the moment, it's being marginalised. What can be done to improve it is give it a unique part of the calendar where there's no other GAA on, and put it on at weekends, so that in January, GAA correspondents have nothing to do. There's Sigerson games. Here, those intercounty lads. Now it's getting more of a media coverage. Another funny thing about the media coverage, do you ever hear a Sigerson player saying, we never get media coverage? No, they love Sigerson because it's a great competition. It's not all about that anyways. But it would be nice to see it getting a bigger profile and a unique part of the calendar. Their own 6 weeks. That's not too much to ask.
Yeah.
Agreed?
It's hard. No, definitely agreed, but it's still hard to fit it all in.
No, it is. I think, if you do away with the pre-season competitions, because let's be honest, we saw with Brian Howard, we saw with other players, if you're trying to break on a senior squad, you're definitely good enough for your Sigerson or Fitzgibbon. you're going to choose the county and not try and make the manager think you're not committed over those two. And if you do away with the early season competitions, you don't have that concern.
Something has to give.
Yeah.
So the easiest things to give is the pre-season competition. So hopefully they'll see sense.
Yeah, exactly. So really bad news for Clare, lads. Not much more to say about this. I was just reading this morning. The Clare Champion are reporting that Gary Brennan is out for 2020. So that's a nightmare for Clare, who are obviously still in Division 2. And we know how important he is for them in midfield, but can do a job at centre forward, and with the advanced mark could absolutely do a job at full forward for them next year. So I don't know what he's doing. He's a teacher. Don't know what his thinking behind that is, but I just saw that this morning. Some news in Offaly. We mentioned this already, but there's a little bit more. I was just reading, I think it was in the Offaly Express. So the closing nominations of or county board nominations puts Michael Duignan up against Tommy Byrne. He's the chairman. Michael Duignan is going up against him. So there's a convention on December the 10th to vote that in. So Tommy Byrne told I think it was maybe the Tullamore Tribune. I was reading it. So Tommy Byrne told them that he'd been asked to stand down. So Michael Duignan and a few other fellas went to Tommy Byrne. He said they asked him to stand down. They say they didn't ask him to stand down. They told him that, okay, maybe it's another way of saying that change was needed, that hurling was on the slide badly, and things haven't been improved, and they think that a fresh voice or, fresh ideas would be important. So Tommy Byrne said it was a short meeting. It was a short meeting. He says, they asked me to stand down and I told them I wouldn't. I said if I stood aside when approached by a group like that, I would be a disgrace to myself and the position I hold. So that's kind of where we're at with that. Be interesting to see can Duignan beat him, because a lot of this is politics, lads. And like if this was a poll done amongst Offaly supporters, I'm sure Duignan would win this as a landslide. But it's not. It's county board delegates from all the clubs who know about club politics and who might have been done a favour by Tommy Byrne, or who might, for me, you'd say Duignan has this as a shoe-in, but he could easily be beaten by Tommy Byrne because of the people who will be voting for it.
Yeah, it's a very tasty convention that we're set up for.
It is, because there's a good few other positions being challenged
as well.
Going
for
three
the vice
more.
chairperson, is it, or something like that? They had a few other positions, but it's
great. That kind of thing should happen in every county, because, it is kind of a closed shop. And I had a friend who went for county board chairman in Laois the last time, and he was beaten. Kieran Levy, he was involved in county board, but he had to canvass different clubs, especially the hurling side, because this was the chairman of county board, and he's from a football club, so he might not have connections, and he's canvassing them. And he had told me before the vote went through, if everybody that told me to give me the vote gives me the vote, I'll win it. He didn't win it. Yeah, this is, you know what I mean. This is what you're dealing with, because they're just telling you one thing, and there's no way of, this is GEA. When the cliche is said in GEA, it's all politics. This is kind of what you're talking about.
It's like exit polls and stuff, for politics as well. You think Hillary Clinton's going to win, and then Donald Trump comes in.
Offaly is a red state,
yeah. But I see it's Byrne's second stint as well. So
he's been in there a good second stint. He went as secretary then. He didn't get out of the mix. He went back to secretary and then back to chairman again. So that's happening in Waterford as well. These fellas are too long in jobs, and you can only have a certain amount of years in the job, so they stay within the county board in another job and then come back in again.
Sure, you know what I mean? Murphy in Cork, you're talking like 40 years or something, I think, within the executive or something like that.
He was very long. You wonder what, obviously it's a passion in their lives, but I do think that there was an element of control and power on it as well. Look, I run Offaly. I'm not saying Tommy Byrne, I'm just saying in general about county board chairman. Well, I run Laois GA. It's just a kind of power thing that you'll maybe proud of or whatever. I don't know. It seems to be 3 years out. Good luck. Back somebody else. Give it a go. Padraic Joyce was talking last week. And I was just reading it there this week, and it's basically he's done a Wooly Parkinson prediction on Galway. So my prediction didn't work, Padraic.
I hope he's more successful.
Well, mine got to an All-Ireland semi-final, and you have to remember my prediction was made. Galway were a Division 2 team, so it wasn't a terrible, outrageous prediction. It didn't come off. It didn't come off, but I knew that they had potential, and Obviously, they didn't win an All-Ireland in the 3 years like I predicted. But Padraic Joyce has gone one step further. He's saying he wants to win an All-Ireland within 1 year.
2 steps further, yeah. 2 years further.
So he says, he was asked, could have been Joe Molloy asked him this. He says, he was asked what would be a successful year. Maybe, I'm just guessing that, because winning an All-Ireland, he replied. Anything less would be a failure. Simple as that. Nothing less. I won't feel it's a successful tenure if I don't have Sam Maguire in Galway. Hopefully in 10 months. Next August we'll have it. A very Joycey, I like that one. Yeah, them kind of fighting words. And I'm sure Padraic, something Kevin Walsh did not do, coming from the type of football he played with Galway, to bring a little bit of that into the Galway team, get the most out of those lethal forwards they have, but also having that balance of getting back to protect your defence. A little bit, let's be honest, like Kerry have, a little bit like Dublin have. They're able to play scintillating football by having enough forwards up front. But if you're slightly slow with your build-up and you play 2 or 3 lateral hand passes, that's your fault. We'll be back there. Do you know what I mean? I think that's pretty much what every team is striving for. And if you're lazy with your attack and you're not, you don't have conviction to it and you don't have any speed to it, Kerry and Dublin will be back. But if you have speed to your attack and you move it fast through the foot, you're getting one-on-ones with both their full backlines. Do you know what I mean? So that kind of how to break it down pretty simply.
Yeah, that
Mayo a little bit like that too.
Yeah, that defiant attitude must have been what he said in the interview that I accidentally stumbled upon in the hotel. You missed it while you were gone. Well, he was a bit of accidental investigative journalism, spotted himself and John Dively in a meeting with, must have been County Board executive in the hotel next door. But I think there's going to be a real feel-good kind of factor around Galway football next year, because it's not to dismiss what Kevin Welsh has done, but like it's, you can't dismiss the fact that there's been kind of grumblings about the style of play. And while Kevin Welsh himself was an icon, he's probably not on the level of icon that Padraic Joyce is in, and especially what Galway fans have seen what Padraic Joyce has done with the underage Galway teams that he's been in, and he's been fairly blatant about the style of football that he wants to play as well. So when you combine that with the quality of players that especially the quality of forwards that you imagine, if you're Shane Welsh, Damien Comer is going to be hopefully fully fit, as long as he's not playing any charity games on Stephen's Day this year. So with all that to look forward to, and somebody like Padraic Joyce in charge, I nearly fear as a Mayo man for the feel good factor on Galway football. I don't think they're going to win an All-Ireland in 10 months. I doubt the quality of their midfield and half back line, but I think it could be a very strong year for them. Yeah, no, it definitely could. And Padraic Joyce really is an icon, isn't he? Like, I mean, this fella was phenomenal player. I don't think you hear people talking about obviously players like Ciarán MacDonald being icons, and he was incredibly flashy and eye-catching. Padraic Joyce was just an exceptional player. Like, he scored, was a 9 from play in the All-Ireland final in 2001. Destroyed Meath on his own in maybe one of the greatest performances, left and right. Destroyed Fay, then destroyed Riley, then Fay. Like, I played against him in an under-21 All-Ireland semi-final in 98. He was playing midfield, and he was just like, whoa, this lad just, I would have been under-21 the following year again, but I was just thinking, Jesus, this lad is good. Like, he's just, and a no-nonsense fella on the field as well, like, not into any messing, but you just know this was a serious individual, and some of the performances, and then went out centre forward, pulled the socks up and turned into a spray the ball around, maybe because he wasn't as flashy as other players. I don't know. I know he's an icon in Galway, but he should be more of an icon nationally for what he's done in the game. Yeah, maybe it's just he's more of an icon around Conor because we were closer to him, but I would have regarded him as up on that. Let's say from that era, the Canavans, the Morris Fitz, I would have had him up. Oh, he has to be. Absolutely. I'm just even thinking back to the battles he used to have with David Heaney. It's hard to call them battles because the two of them were real gentlemen as well as being class footballers. But David Heaney would have had a good day on Padraic Joyce if he kept him to like 3 or 4 from play, and like would have had a really good game. That's how good Padraic Joyce was. Like, you're talking 9 from play. It was 9 points in that All-Ireland final. It was as good as an All-Ireland final as you'll find, but because he probably didn't have the high profile as some of the other ones, it's not as celebrated. But like around Mayo, Galway especially, obviously I can't think of a bigger, especially from that generation upwards, I can't think of a bigger, say, icon in Galway football. Well, Donlan was more eye-catching. Joyce got 1-1 in 98 as well, in the final in 98 as well. Donlan was just, and look, you could talk about these players. I love Galway back then. Jaff Fallon, all these I liked Derek Savage in the corner as well, I have to say. Niall Finnegan. Got out of jail against Derry in 2001, but we'll not get into it. Muldoon got a great goal that day, didn't he? That was a textbook big man on the edge of the square goal, wasn't it? He also hit the crossbar though, and this is hurting you, brother. Okay, Conor McKenna's Essendon coach John Worsford isn't happy with Conor McKenna.
So Conor McKenna, in fairness now, Conor should know better. He's 23. He's been out there since 2014, and he's been on the team for the last 2 years. He does dummy solos. Have you ever seen Conor McKenna's dummy solos? You should look at these.
Fantastic.
This is incredible stuff. Right, so he's established. His team, Ailish, beat Eden Dork by 2-9 to 110 in a relegation playoff. So the coach, John Worsford, said, we certainly didn't send him back there to play football. And I'm just thinking, John, it was a relegation playoff. You don't know what you're talking about. No, but seriously, John, it was relegation against Eden Dork. Come on, mate. Like, come on, do your research, buddy. But that was it. So I just thought that was funny. He was saying... Then it was like, it's almost like he has no understanding of Gaelic football at all. So he starts saying, out of everything you can do as a footballer in the off-season, this is John Worsford now, who's not happy, obviously, with Conor McKenna. He says, out of everything you can do as a footballer in the off-season, going and playing non-contact football would be best. This is Gaelic football he's talking about. He said, it's better than going skiing or playing basketball or playing rugby, something you don't do day in, day out. He went and did something that's probably the safest form of exercise he could possibly do. But he did it in a competitive environment. This is Tyrone Club football. This is a relegation playoff. This is a dangerous place.
How insulting. Like this is what the Aussies think of us. We think we're tough.
Yeah.
And they're just
does he think it's handball or what does he think
the picture
it
of
is?
Sean Kavanagh after the game against Eden Dork there last year and see what he says.
So basketball is more physical than Gaelic football. Now we know some people complain Gaelic football's getting like that, but Jesus, that how the Aussies look at us. I thought it was obviously Mark O'Connor did the same thing last year with Donegal. Like I've often said, Zach did it for a few years when he was with Carlton, but Geelong have, said no. I think most of the clubs are saying no to it now. But again, it was a relegation. It was a relegation final.
Yeah, like I remember went to the Derry final a couple of weeks ago when Conor Glass was on the bench and he was out kicking around beforehand and got so excited thinking, jeez, might see Conor Glass playing. And then as Glenn were behind the whole game and I was like, what? Get him on, what are you doing? And then after a while I realised he's probably just not allowed to play.
Yeah,
and they were just being sound and bringing him on.
Or maybe they're just trying to scare the opposition into thinking he is playing and that kind of panic. When you're kicking around, everyone does it. You're looking.
Yeah.
Who's playing
yeah.
And then you might be told, come on, let's concentrate on yourself, and you might kick a point and you're running back out and you're seeing who's number 5 I'm playing 12. Who's down there? And you're clocking every single one of their players, and you watch your teammates and they're all clocking down. Like it's hard not to. It's very hard not to look down. What are they doing down there? Are they up for it?
Yeah.
They could be doing a drill where they're really hitting off each other and you're like, Jesus.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah. And then you get everyone in a huddle. Lads, they're up for it and we're not.
Spurs flat here, lads.
We're flat.
Oh yeah, we're either flat or there's too much talking going on. It's like,
all the same old talk goes on in every team in the country, doesn't it? But anyways, talking about the same old talk. This Ryan Jones was interviewed during the week, and this is what he said about the semi-final against Kilcoo. We'll get into previewing these games after we talk to Brick Molloy. So Ryan Jones said, we have no injuries to report, which is great ahead of a huge game against Kilcoo, which is going to be high intensity. Ultimately, semi-finals are there to be won, and that's exactly what we'll give it. So then I was thinking, semi-finals are there to be won. I said, that rings a bell with me. What do they mean by that? What does that mean, semi-finals are there to be won? So I Googled it, and it's a favourite of Jim Gavin's. Loads of people say it. It's like a cliche in the GAA that I don't understand. I just don't understand it. So Jim Gavin said after beating Galway in 2018, semi-finals are there to be won. We're just happy to get through it. Jim Gavin after beating Mayo in 2019, they showed great adaptability. Semi-finals are there to be won, and we're grateful to get the result. So John Myler, the Cork hurling manager, have said it. Semi-finals are there to be won. Keith Higgins after beating Roscommon in 2016, and this is after hammering them, Invariably, All-Ireland semi-finals are there to be won. So Keith goes on to explain it a little bit further in the same interview. He says, at this stage, we don't care whether we win the greatest game ever played or we win the worst game ever played. You just have to win them. It's as simple as that. The result is all that matters. I'm wondering what round of games does that not apply to? What game is not there to be won? I would imagine a final is there to be won more. I would imagine if it's in the context of not performing that well, which I thought semi-finals we didn't play that well, but semi-finals are just there to be won. But Jim Gavin said it after hammering Mayo. Keith Higgins is saying it after hammering Roscommon, with a great performance. So in my head, you kind of say it after an unconvincing performance. And it's just a cliche. Look, we're not they're there to be won and we're in the final now. It doesn't seem to be the way they mean it. Can you shed light on this?
Maybe you're worried less about it. If you put in a bad performance earlier on the year and it's a sign of how your year is going to go, well then you can't say, oh, that game was there to be won, because there's a pattern here developing. We're obviously on course for a bad season because of the level of our performances. But I think it's just as simple as, it's a cliche that the more often it's used, it just gets into the lexicon. It's like,
and you say it without even thinking about it.
Like Marcus Rashford, United beat Chelsea in the League Cup there last week, 2 weeks ago. The most important thing was the 3 points. You don't get 3 points for winning in the cup. Do you know what I mean?
They're just programmed.
No, absolutely. Like, and
Yeah.
the
But I hate this one. Why did this become a thing?
Surely the final is the biggest game that's there to be won, but nobody will say that afterwards.
Well,
like,
that's
you know
true. But I was thinking semi-finals are there to be won. If the first round, this would apply much better. To say you just get over the first round, you're not great. Well, look, first round matches, you know yourself, they're there to be won. We're not sure what our form are like, and now we're in the second round. Hopefully we can build on that. Yeah. You could understand it a bit more first round. Quarter final, well, we just won a provincial championship, and there's a bit of celebration, so quarter finals are there to be won. Now we're in the big time. What game can you not say this about?
But yeah, provincial semi-final though as well, like it gets you into the Ulster final,
yeah.
And then the provincial final, like that's there to be won because you have to win the trophy.
Yeah.
And then quarter-final, semi-final, games are there to be won.
Okay, we're not going to analyse that today, right? Games are there to be won, right? We'll come back and we'll talk to Brick Molloy. Okay, so Naomh Conaill play Contibret on Saturday night after having a full 2 weeks to prepare for this one. And Naomh Conaill stalwart Brick Molloy joins us on the line now. Is it okay to call you a stalwart, Brick?
Well, I think so really at this stage, the way you're talking about me. So I'll take it on the chin,
This is the thing about you, Brick. I thought you were older because you've been around a long time. Like, I mean, both with Naomh Conaill and you made your breakthrough with Donegal at a young age, and you're only 28.
28. Well, still, the years are still clocking up. I suppose I came in with Naomh Conaill as 16, 17-year-old, and in 2008, and I suppose then the breakthrough year then with Donegal, under John Doherty, I was just turned 19, so
yeah,
I was very young coming in. So, but I don't know, it's been a roller coaster, a couple of years, for myself, and it's just I've enjoyed it all really, and I suppose you look back and there's been some great highs, and there's been some lows as well, but yeah, the body doesn't feel like a 28-year-old, to be honest.
Well, how would it? You've had 4 games in 14 days, so how the hell? Like, I'm sure you feel like a 70-year-old man after all of that.
I know. In fairness, now to Martin and all the background team, this year, I think it's the best shape that probably Naomh Conaill team has been in years. We've got a lot of gym sessions behind us as well. We really focused on that. Maybe went to the wayside a wee bit the last couple of years. We didn't really buy into it as much. So
right.
This year, in fairness, every man hasn't missed any sessions, and I think actually before the county final, night before it, our strength and conditioning coach there, Damien Mackers, I think he said there was over 400 gym sessions done. So it's a lot of sessions. That there's probably collectively. So it's a lot of stuff, and I suppose looking at it, the last 2 weeks, the bodies have stood up well with it, and credit to them boys.
Yeah. So you won the game. I'll talk to you about that trilogy county final in a minute, but you won the game, the last one. It was dramatic. It was John O'Malley point that was disputed, but it was obviously a point.
Yeah.
When you see it, this is on a Wednesday night for a county final, which must have been kind of a bizarre thing. And then you're out on the Sunday against Castlerahan. So it's not Guidor, so we saw no videos of your celebration. So we didn't know what you were doing on the Wednesday and on the Thursday. So you'll fill me in on what you were doing.
Hey, you're not on. You mustn't be on Instagram, are you? There's plenty of videos up on that.
Oh, was there?
I think Twitter has a day in art up here, Donegal. Maybe bar down in Guidor. But no, in fairness, look at when Naomh Conaill won something, we partied out hard, hey, and I suppose the Wednesday night in the county final, I think we went straight through to early Friday morning. And then obviously there was a training session pulled in on the Friday evening for us, so a lot of men landed and were half cut, but anyway. But no, in fairness, that's what happened. There was no going to bed early on Wednesday night or Thursday night. We we really enjoyed it. We put a lot of effort into it, and we celebrated hard too. But we suppose we had to focus on getting to Sunday and possibly getting over the line with the momentum that we gathered. And in fairness now, get the bodies right on the Friday and Saturday. We're in the recovery lounge, in Ballyshannon and that, and we're getting our bodies ready for battle. And thankfully, we just got over the line. I'd say it was a funny enough sight in the warm up in Breffni. If you looked out and down at at our group, the steam's rising off, man. But in fairness now, we're blessed to get over the line because Castlerahan put on a massive 10 minutes towards the end, and thankfully, we held out.
Yeah, no, exactly. So that's the thing. So on the Wednesday and Thursday, you obviously celebrated out, then had the training session on Friday. But you must have been in bits on the Friday and Saturday. Did you hire extra masseurs to try and get lads rubbed out? Or how would you get, because you're talking about the 3 county finals and then, a night of celebration and then another day of celebration. On the Friday, you must have been in an awful state.
Yeah, well, that's it. I suppose it was maybe Friday morning at about 6 or 7 that probably we actually did get to bed, So there wasn't much time to actually get body recovered. It was more when you woke up, and then I think myself and Tony Thompson went to the Highlands for a bite just to get ourselves, get ourselves going. But in fairness, every man came down to the session. We sweated out. We done a couple of short bus and runs and stuff just to kind of get the heads cleared more than anything. I think the legs were, in fairness, we came down Tuesday night after the Donegal first game, and we put on a savage session at that, and we kind of knew it was on our legs. We do feel we've good fitness built up this year, and in fairness to lads, every man, the Friday and Saturday, we didn't miss any recoveries, or as you say, there was rub-outs to be done. Every man got it done, and thankfully, it probably put us in good enough head then for the game then on Sunday.
Right, okay. So you'd lost the previous 2 county finals, so there was almost I'm sure within your group that there was no way you were losing another one. There was a kind of a defiance about you.
There was. Look at it. It's been a roller coaster since Martin took the job in 15, and for him to come in the first year, and obviously we won it in 2015, and things were looking good, and then all of a sudden, you've lost 2 finals back to back, and I suppose the biggest thing for us, I think, this year was to get back to county final. We felt if we could get back to county final day again, that we would get over the line this time, and no one could ever thought that go to a trilogy would be hard to get over the line, and I suppose it was in our heads, leaving Glenties the three days and us pulling out of the clubhouse, and you go up through the town. Next thing you're on the Chapel Bray stretch, and you had the whole of Glenties out here, and you're leaving the place, and that there was a massive lift for us, even leaving Glenties, and it's a big thing when you see that. You probably only see that at county grounds, that maybe coming an All Ireland final, or the final, open up the Hill of Clones, crowded. You never see that at club level.
No.
Thankfully,
and was that
there's all our clubs.
That was on
out there.
Sorry, that was on the Wednesday night. You got that. The whole town came out to kind of.
The Wednesday and the 2 previous weeks. So it just shows, I suppose, the hard thing that the town was feeling too the last 2 years, and it was just a great lift to finally get over the line, and it was great joy. I don't think we landed into Glenties on the Wednesday night to maybe 1:30, I think, 1:45 in the morning, and the place was packed, and it's just great. The people in Naomh Conaill love their football, and for us to pull on a Naomh Conaill jersey, it's a very, very proud thing for us, and we want to represent the people of Naomh Conaill and the parish of Glenties and Fintown, and that there means a lot to us,
Yeah, no, that's it's great to hear. What's the story with your role as a substitute now? I'm sure you're not happy about that, Brick. So you're coming on. you're getting is this an element of finish? Having some stronger lads on the line to finish it out, or I think you started a few games earlier this year and then you missed out in the semi-final. What's the thinking behind that?
Yeah, no, in fairness now, I suppose I started all year, really, to be fair, and probably wasn't finishing out the games, which maybe Martin and them probably didn't. They'd rather me on the field after, the end of the game. So, in fairness, it's, no one likes to be in that position, but in fairness, it's a role that I was used to, with Donegal, and I suppose they probably seen from them days, that I was able to make impacts and such. So, look at, no one likes being on the bench, but if there's a job there to be done coming in, we have to do it, and that's kind of the way. In fairness, you look at our bench coming on, there's quality in there. Like myself and Marty Boyle come on, and the 2 of us were in, the All Ireland panel in 2012. Derek Gallagher was on, the 2011 Ulster panel as well. So, we have a lot of quality coming off the bench, and we definitely have a very strong team finishing out the games, which is a big bonus.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. You definitely have a little rivalry with Neil McGee going back plenty of years, so when you come on, there's plenty of talking going on between the two of you.
In fairness, me and Neil, to be fair, always get on very well at county level, and in fairness to Neil, it's probably hard to use to believe. In fairness, he never usually says much to me. We have a very good relationship there. You chat each other. Out and about. And in fairness, he's never been too bad. I remember actually going down to Maragallon as a 16-year-old, and that was my first day playing against Gweedore down there. And next thing I look up and Neil McGee's going in to pick me up here, and I remember the first ball that came in, and I actually caught Neil with an elbow in the eye, and he turned around and he said to me, "Molloy, if you ever do that again, I'll tear your eyes out." So that was a real warm welcome from him, But in fairness to him, I got close to him then in the county setup. We built up a good relationship, and he's a top fella, Neil. And in fairness, I think as the game was getting closer towards the replays, we were kind of saying to each other, "Jesus, hardly going to go another replay," and as such. So there's a bit of crack there too,
Ah, right, okay. Because I saw you both talking to each other, and I thought maybe it was a little bit of kind of like gentle wind-ups, but it was actually talking to each other.
I know, just generally talking to each other. In fairness, myself and Neil, it's actually the good one to be fair. But no, there's no bad old mouthing for Neil. In fairness to me, he's a quality player. On the pitch, and he plays very hard. In fairness, of the ball there to be won, and he's a chance of taking out to do that. But there's no sledge or anything like that from him. So.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. Come here. The reason I asked you about being a substitute, obviously, because you're such a big player for Naomh Conaill, and to have to psychologically, do a role, making an impact mightn't be that easy, and especially because you finished up with Donegal at a very early age, maybe 24, 25, because you didn't like that role as a substitute.
Yeah, well, I suppose I got used to with Donegal. I suppose. I was lucky enough. I played a lot of games. I think over a half a century at that stage, built up with Donegal. I think I left when I was 23. So I was well used to the role of coming on with Jim. I played a lot of the league, with Donegal in years, and I suppose come championship time then, I was kind of brought in at that substitute role. And I was very young back then, and when you had a full forward line of Michael Murphy, Colin McFadden, and obviously Patrick was coming through at that stage. As a young fella, I was just glad to be in there, and just trying to learn things off these players, and it was a great time. And I suppose now with the role with Naomh Conaill, you just have to take it in the chin, and every man goes into the sessions, down trying to prove a point to Martin, and I think that there's a healthy thing to have on a squad too.
Yeah, and it's mad. Charles McGuinness is full forward now for Naomh Conaill, who was a water boy back in when you won the All Ireland. He's Jim's nephew, obviously. I thought that was an interesting one.
In fairness to Charlie, he's a quality player.
He is actually a very quality player, yeah.
He does. He's great skill, and he was down there before training, taking sideline balls there, like Morris Clifton. It's unreal to watch him, but in fairness to Charlie, he probably this last 2 years playing reserve, and he put a serious winter in there, bulking up and trimming down, and you can see himself, he was in great shape.
Right, yeah, because he has a nice style about him. He's able to kick one booming point from the 45 in I think it was the first game, so he's definitely got a bit about him.
He has quality in fairness. He's capable of that, and Charles is still very young too, and he's learning, and I think the big thing with Charles, he went in, Neil McGee the first couple of days, and in fairness to Charlie, he got stuck in there, he wasn't going to shy down, because it was Neil, and that there's another good quality to have, but as a footballer for us, his free taking ability too is top notch. And you're talking about gym sessions there earlier. That man hasn't missed one. He's flat out down at the gym. He's getting fit, and in fairness to him, he's quality this year for us.
Yeah, talking about Jim McGuinness. Talks about the impact he's made on the club. Brick. I was reading his book, and he talked about putting some underage structures in place and things like that. And from 2006 to 2012, you were in 7 under-21 finals in a row. You won 5 of them. I'm not sure, is that Jim McGuinness's legacy, or where did that improvement come about? Because 2005 was your first ever senior title.
Yeah, I suppose 05. I suppose the start of it all was probably 2002. Dad was manager at that stage, and Glenties ended up winning their first ever senior league title. So that was Glenties' first ever senior title, at any level. And Martin Regan then came in, obviously as minor manager 03-04, and that crop of players then started to come, and you had the likes of Brendan McDowell, Marty Boyle, Andy Thompson, Owen Wade and Leo that would have been on their minor teams then ultimately came in 05, and the Uncle Hughie and Dad were managing 05, and Jim obviously done the knee, I think. Sorry, I'm just going to go out of here. Jim obviously done the knee then in 2005 it was. So quarter-final time came around, and Jim then was brought in by Hughie and the Dialman, so he just kind of got put the structures in place, for that kind of defensive style.
Right.
And in fairness, it worked so well that year. In fairness, it was all new to the Glenties, the defensive style of football. And I suppose Jim then, where he took us, and then 2009, I think he was manager that year with Cahill Corey. And in fairness to them, they probably opened up a wee bit that time. We ended up winning the championship in 2010 with Cahill, and Glenties were actually anything but defensive,
Right.
And we made it all the way to the Ulster Club final that year, and I suppose 2011 then came around, and that's when Jim got the Donegal job, and you could see a big change in club level with Donegal, that things were starting to change. We were playing open for 15 on 15, and that thing you land in a championship game with Glensolly, and there's 15 down the ball, and that was probably the first time that we felt that there was a change happening with Donegal, and it was probably due to Donegal's 2011 campaign, and club football started to evolve different, in Donegal.
So I suppose it will be more of an open game against Clontibret. Dave of John McEntee's their manager, and he's definitely not into a defensive style. So it could be a more entertaining game.
Well, that's it. Please God, anyway. I think, in fairness, if Clontibret are going to go, defensive or not, then it's up to us, to deal with that. But you can see that John McEntee's bringing in that kind of Cross McGlenn style with him, and it's going to make for very interesting game. So it's going to be a serious battle, on Saturday night.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know whether maybe you've too much time on your hands with 2 weeks leading into this, Brick. I don't know. We'll know on Saturday night. Anyways, come here, Brick. Best of luck against Clontibret, and thanks for taking the call.
Cheers, Willie. Good man yourself.
Okay, so Paddy Power predictions, lads. We're into provincial club semi-final stage.
They're there to be won.
They're all there to be won, just to get into that final. So we have, first off, we have Clontibret from Monaghan against Naomh Conaill. We've covered this mostly with Brick Molloy there. So Clontibret are 13-10 outsiders, Naomh Conaill 5-6. It was interesting. Conor McManus said after county final, we had a difficult year last year. We had to win our last 2 games to stay senior, and at that stage things didn't look great. We were struggling to see where we were going to compete again. And then I started checking it out and said, oh, that's grand. Well, John McEntee must have come in then and changed the whole thing around. John McEntee was their manager last year. So it's funny, isn't it, that they struggled last year under John McEntee, and this year John McEntee puts it down to, I heard an interview he did before the county final, said they put a huge focus on the league to try and build confidence, and then, they build confidence, and then the results started, coming or whatever. And now they've beaten Scottstown, who were not only Monaghan favourites, would have been Ulster favourites as well, and beaten Crossmaglen. So it's a crazy improvement with the same manager from last year struggling.
Yeah, and when you said build confidence during the league, in Monaghan, don't they do it that it's split between it's half without their county players and half with them? So I imagine that.
But the half without them is weighted lower than the half with them.
Yeah. So having the likes of Vinnie Corey and Conor McManus, they were able to build that momentum that they obviously took into championship.
But that's a good
huge transformation.
That's a good point. I think Monaghan going out early. Monaghan obviously were beaten in Ulster and then beaten in the first round of the qualifiers by Armagh, or the second round very early. So you've got Conor McManus all summer now for all the league games, and you've Conor McManus and Vinnie Corey especially, because they're play both of them on the full forward line. So you're trying to get your game plan together without those two.
Yeah.
Do you know, having them there the whole time, Desi Moan to a lesser extent because he's in the defence, but especially 2 of your 3 inside forwards, having them, when would Monaghan, but then it would have been out in June, right?
Yeah.
So he would have had them, all summer, so to get a bit of momentum and stuff going as well.
Yeah, but even having Desmond there, like, at the heart of the defence, and the other boys learning off him setting everything up. Yourself, when you have a proper number 6.
Yeah, you see, Scottstown would have had more county lads, back all summer. But they've more of a spread of them. The point I'm trying to make, that's why I didn't include Desmond, is because it's 2 men on the 3-man full forward, and it's Conor McManus.
Yeah.
And Vinnie Corey, who would have a very specific role in there as well. So that's why I was kind of focusing on the 2 of them. Just because Scottstown would have kind of blown the when you include Desmond.
I mean, like that feeds through the whole team, because if you have Conor McManus and Vinnie Corey, you're going to kick the ball into them, otherwise you're stupid. But if you don't have them there all year, you're probably not. You're not going to be 2 players like that.
Well, that's the thing.
All summer, the players out the field have been looking up and kicking the ball.
Yeah. So you have your proper game plan. Who do we fancy here, lads? It's a very difficult one, actually. I might go for Naomh Conaill. I think that they might just squeeze the life out of Clontibbret. I know Scottstown aren't that extremely defensive, and Crossmaglen definitely aren't either. So whether Clontibbret can beat them, the last time they met actually was in 2010. I think Naomh Conaill beat them fairly well, 2-12 to 9 points. So what do you think of this one?
Yeah, squeezing the life is a good description. I think Naomh Conaill as well, and I think Kieran Thompson and Charles McGuinness just to kick them over the line.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I went for Guidor against Naomh Conaill, then Castlerahan against Naomh Conaill.
I did too.
I'm not backing against them again, so I'm going Naomh Conaill.
Yeah, I'm kind of on that line of thinking as well. Right, the next one is in Ulster semi-finals, which are there to be won, is Derrygonnelly at 11-4 against Kilcoo at 4-11. Kilcoo won 6 in a row, obviously, then lost last year to Burren, and now have reclaimed it. So from their 6 in a row, they made 2 Ulster finals. They lost in 2012 to Crossmaglen, 3-9 to 1-9, so were well competitive in that one, and then lost to Sloughnale, I think it was 2016, 12 points to 9. So they've been right up there in the mix. They obviously have the Derry connection with Mickey Moran, and their assistant manager is Conaill Gilligan. I didn't realise that he was involved in it. I also didn't realise that Kilcoo was only a small little village. You always think when a team's dominating that they might have been a bit bigger than that. But Conor Laverty did an interview, and he was talking about, should you be a schoolboy or girl, old man or woman, Friday night is football night. Everyone goes to the matches. The club is the heartbeat of our village, and it means everything to us. So there is a bit of a Crossmaglen about them. This small village, we're obsessed with Gaelic football. They have 5 brothers on the team, 5 Brannigans. You have Niall Brannigan cornerback, Aidan Brannigan fullback, you have Aaron Brannigan centre back, you have Daryl Brannigan midfield, and you have Eugene Brannigan as a number 10. So basically, if the Brannigan car doesn't land, if Mammy Brannigan doesn't bring the 5 boys in the car, we don't have a game, lads. But that was interesting. So a little village club, 5 brothers. You obviously have the 2 Johnsons as well, who play for Down, Ryan and Jerome. And now I'm starting to look at Kilcoo in a whole new kind of Sloughnale light, and I'm kind of I'm rooting for them.
Maybe that's why Mickey Moran went there.
Oh yeah,
what a club similar to what he was used to.
Yeah. So I'm going Kilcoo here, lads. When you factor in that village togetherness, Mickey Moran, manager, and then obviously the firepower of the Johnsons and Conor Laverty as well, I think they'll have too much for Derrygonnelly.
Like when I saw all the big guns being knocked out around Ulster and even in their own county championships, I thought this is Kilcoo's to lose.
Oh, nice one there. Say it again.
Kilcoo's to lose. But then they obviously struggled through. They won by a point in the semi-final. Did they go to replay in the quarters? Won by a point in the final. Now I know club championships are there to be won, so it doesn't really matter how they
write off any semi-final performance.
Yeah. But now they're here back in the provincial semi-final, but I think there's very long odds for Derrygonnelly as well.
It is, especially after beating Trillick.
Yeah, and like you're the one that made the point first. Like they're a seasoned Ulster team. Like they're
Kilcoo are too now.
Yeah, no, that's it. There's 2 seasoned teams come up against each other, but I can't believe the sort of disparity in the odds. And yeah, like I sort of fancied Derrygonnelly as an outside bet. They've beaten Carrigan, who I thought they wouldn't. They beat Trillick, who I thought they wouldn't. They've got their stuff together. They've got Ryan Jones and McGullen in midfield, who are just class footballers, like big men, brilliant footballers. 3 Jones brothers. I saw they have Ronan McHugh coming off the bench for them, who won a Hogan Cup back in March. So they've got a bit of firepower coming off as well. I can't believe they're 11-4, so I would fancy them just as an outside bet. Maybe this will be a draw though.
Okay, Conor.
Yeah, just amazed after all that romantic language from Conor Laverty that you're not going for Kilcoo.
Very surprising.
You know, very
We've
surprising.
basically compared Kilcoo to Slough-Nail, and you're
still not better for them. I was
I'm
just
shocked.
reading some stuff from Adrian Cush, who I think is the manager of Maherfeld, who Kilcoo beat last time out, and he seemed to. He obviously would have had plenty of praise for him after they just beat them, but he seemed to say the same thing with Cosmaghan gone, with Trillick gone. He was kind of tipping it to be Kilcoo's year. So, they've won a lot in down, made a couple of Ulster finals. I think it could be their year, so I'm going to go with Kilcoo. Yeah,
okay, great stuff. The next one is in hurling, lads. It's St Mullins of Carlow, who obviously accounted for Coola in the last round against Rathdowney Earl from Laois. Rathdowney Earl are favourites for this, 4-6. St Mullins are outsiders 6-4. Thought that was interesting because in 2017 Camross played Mount Leinster Rangers and they lost. Camross, probably the big team in Laois along with Rathdowney Earl, and they lost 19 points to 13. You know, St Mullins beat Mount Leinster Rangers. I know you can't read across that kind of thing, but I thought this would be even money because it's in Dr. Cullen Park. If you'd say Rathdowney Earl are slightly better on paper, the away advantage would take that off them.
St Mullins beat Coola though.
They beat Coola at home, you know, and Rathdowney Earl are no Coola. So I thought that was interesting. Rathdowney Earl selector Enda Maher, who used to play for Laois, he says we don't know much about them. This is always the way when you get into Leinster. We don't know much about them, and he says, but by the same token, everyone was looking forward to playing this game. St Mullins will be the same. They'll be thinking the same thing after beating Coola. And I remember mentioning this at this time last year. It's like you win your county, you're playing a team from another county, so you go ringing the team that beat in the county final to get the video of the county final, and you're meeting brick walls in this. So I've tried to do it several times just from different people that you'd know. Any chance of getting the video of the county final? This is the team that they beat now. But then county, this is why I always say the county rose in behind the county champions. They don't want to give up. They don't want to give up the video.
Yeah.
Even the team that beat them, who's a big rival, they don't. And if you do get it, I've got it a couple of times. Do not say where you got this video.
Jesus, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because there is a little bit of treason, given the video. It's another county here. That's why I always think that these provincial clubs bring the county together, and the rivalry simmers down a little bit, and now you're representing your county. And we're not giving them a video of even though they beat us or whatever. And I think that's fantastic.
Is there an element as well that we look better if they go on further, so we don't want to help the
Maybe.
others?
Something like I would have thought it would have depended on the rivalry between the clubs you were asking for. If you had a big rivalry with a club in your own county, you'd be more than happy to give it to somebody else if they're playing them.
Yeah.
But if you're playing the county finalists in Mayo, just go on to Mayo JOE.ie. All the games are archived. So
they're all there. So
I imagine that's the same. And all the games that are shown on Mayo JOE.ie are archived. And I imagine that's. I think a lot of other counties are.
What's
similar.
the subscription for Mayo TV?
I'm not sure what the subscription is, but you just pay a $5
on
any
match.
day that there's 2 matches on. You get the 2 matches for a $5.
And when you go in for the 2 matches for the $5, you can access the archive.
I don't know. Then you have to pay to access the archive.
Maybe
Say if you
another
wanted to
$5.
get a match at $5, but that's all it is.
Yeah.
Like it's really good value to be fair.
That's
So
too easy. You should have to work.
You should have to work. You should have to make at least 3 phone calls, be told no, and then go at it again. But it was interesting from Enda Maher. So Enda Maher played with Rathdowney first, and then he was their captain in 2005 when they joined up with Earl. So he was the first ever captain of Rathdowney Earl to win a county title. So he said he's been in a senior dressing room since he was 17, and he's 41 now. And last year he was still togging out, and he was getting on and getting off, and wasn't really getting a full game. And this year he went, I'm not togging out anymore. I want to be a selector, because he wanted to say that he wanted to have a little bit more. I don't know what way does he. I'll see what he says. I haven't been out of a senior dressing room since I was 17. I'm 41 now. I said to the lads, the difference between playing and being a selector is that I feel I can be a lot more help on the line and training wise, using experience rather than staying togging out and being a bit part player. That was the big thing for me. Last year I found it hard to take after losing the final. Maybe there was something I could have offered. So I thought that was interesting, because some players as they get older might stay involved in a club and in the team, not get a game, but still be that big voice in the dressing room. And I think those fellas can block the younger fellas being the leaders. Do you know, that kind of way? So he's now being the leader as a selector rather than, being togging out and not really knowing what his role was. So it sounds like Enda Maher, in fairness, took a back seat and let the young lads kind of lead it. So then he had no role. Do you know what I mean? Whereas now he's a selector, and now he can actually, you know, maybe take more of an authoritative role with them, because he feels that he's able to be. I definitely think as you get older on a squad, you need to start moving away from making speeches, or else how can the young lads take on that? You know what I mean? If they're waiting for you to be that one all the time, you know, especially when you're not on the team anymore.
I think you need to make that decision as well, as opposed to be told. Do you know?
Yeah.
Like sometimes an older player will still feel that they'll do the same thing they did a few years ago, whereas the young fellas might feel that they need a fresh voice, but would have too much respect, or the older fella would command too much respect. So it's good that at least nobody had to go and nudge him and say, here, listen, stop making those speeches.
Yeah, but it sounds like he didn't. He sounds like he didn't really have any role, do you know, that kind of a way. But maybe, you know, it's hard to know. I just thought it was interesting that for him to be able to help the young fellas, he wanted to be a selector rather than one of the older players. So I'm not really sure. Maybe he was just focusing on trying to get on the team, and
that's it. And probably had his own hang-ups and stuff then when he wasn't getting onto it.
Yeah. Maybe.
As a player, you have all the gripes as well. You know, now he's moved away from that completely.
Yeah. I would be of that line as well. You would, if Jesus, sure, when you're a player, you just want to get on. Yeah. So maybe that's it. Ballyhale Shamrocks play St. Martin's. Geez, the odds here, lads, crazy. Now we know Ballyhale Shamrocks are brilliant and they're defending champions. They're 1-8. St. Martin's are 11-2, but this is the Wexford champions, do you know? And you know, Rory O'Connor is back for St. Martin's. He was missing for the county final, so I thought this was a little bit skewed. I know when Oulart de Bala won it, maybe 2015 or 16, Na Piarsaigh needed extra time to beat them. Now maybe Oulart aren't as good as they used to be now, and they're on the slide, and St. Martin's aren't as good as them. I just thought 1-8. It is in Nolan Park, I suppose. There's not much more we can say about Ballyhale Shamrocks. They are brilliant. I just was a little bit surprised at the 1-8 against the Wexford champions. Yeah, but I'll go for Ballyhale here.
When Slaughtneil won Ulster there, I was just on my Twitter feed, people talking about Slaughtneil against Ballyhale and all the All-Stars that Ballyhale have and stuff, and in my head then I assumed that they were playing Ballyhale Shamrocks in the semi-final, forgetting that they still had to go through Leinster.
Right.
You know, so people up north have already written off everybody else in the Leinster Championship. That's how favoured Ballyhale are. So.
And fair, Ballyhale would beat Slaughtneil by 20 plus points.
Let's just save that for when that happens.
It's so hard to determine weren't Naomh 1-40 last week against Newcastle West or something like that. They only ended up winning by 3 points.
That's true, yeah, by 3 points, yeah.
I'd still go Ballyhale, but the odds seem a bit longer.
I think we'll all go with Ballyhale. St. Mullen, Rathdowney, we didn't get a prediction on that. I'll go for Rathdowney Earl, they're representing Laois, and in a 50-50 game, it would be crazy to not go with my own.
Yeah, is there anything in they've already had their final? You know, that whole chestnut.
The whole Warren Gatlin one.
Yeah, they've played their
could
big
be,
game already.
Coming back down off that, the element of surprise is gone.
Yeah, but I still might go with them. St. Mullins and
Cullen Park at home after beating Coolon, go for St. Mullins.
Okay, big one in Munster Club. This is the second last game we're looking at, lads. This is on Sunday. Naomh Rangers Cork versus Austin Stacks. Naomh Rangers 4-11 favourites, Austin Stacks 11-4. It's 6.5 months since Austin Stacks won the Kerry Club championship. They were in the other championship and East Kerry actually knocked them out of it at the end of September. So that's how long they've been out of the championship. We're now at the 14th, so we're about 6 weeks. East Kerry beat them by 6 points. It was something like 3-14 to 3-8. It was a really kind of madly scored game. So their manager Wayne Quinlan was on Kerry radio and he says it was just around the final whistle that we said, right, we're there. This isn't the county final. It's bizarre watching another match to say we're in the Munster club now. We didn't do ourselves justice in the championship and we're very disappointed with our own performances. We just felt this could be a huge opportunity for ourselves, and I suppose it could. You know, you could be Munster champions, and to be honest, the rules are the rules. They are Kerry club champions with the eight, and I think to beat Dr. Crokes in the final back in April. Dr. Crokes obviously were a good time to get them after losing the All-Ireland club the month before. So Austin Stacks had a man at the match against Naomh Rangers Newcastle West, so they were just covering their bases, you know, thinking maybe East Kerry beat Dr. Crokes. We'll have to have had a look at Naomh. He says obviously until the final whistle today we couldn't show what we couldn't show it to the lads. We'll be fine-tuning ourselves this week and focusing on ourselves as much as we can. Hard to know how Austin Stacks can beat Naomh Rangers, lads. Now I'm going for Naomh Rangers even though they weren't convincing the last day. When you look through the Austin Stacks team, it's a weird one. You know Ronan Shanahan and you know Kieran Donaghy, and then you're like, Jesus, it's not a huge they've no representation on the Kerry team at all for a club like Austin Stacks. which is a strange one. The team doesn't jump out at you as, then again, East Kerry's team doesn't jump out at you when you look through it, massively either, but there's an awful lot of players that have come through the 5 in a row minors, young lads that maybe brilliant under 21 Sigerson players that you might not be as aware of. I'll still go for Naomh Rangers to win this one, lads.
Yeah, that 6-point defeat to East Kerry isn't looking too bad now after seeing what East Kerry did to
exactly,
Dr. Crokes.
Yeah.
I just wonder what they did. So like they were knocked out of the county championship at the end of September, knowing that they're going to be, they give it like 3 weeks off and then maybe go back to training again or something like that. And I don't know about the motivations of all of the squads. You'd imagine that some of them
years over.
You
look at Glen Rovers, who went down to Borrisoleague last time. They'd lost the county final, and at least they would be definitely fit. Psychologically, they wouldn't be great. Austin Stacks might not be 100% fit, and psychologically, their year was over. And now it's back on, and Naomh aren't in that headspace.
Yeah, I'm going for Naomh as well. Like, they weren't great, obviously, last week, when considering they were such strong favourites against Newcastle West, but fancy them by a couple of points anyway.
5 years since Stacks won Munster.
Yeah,
probably a bit too. Like, they still have a bit of pedigree. Obviously.
They beat Naomh in the final. They got maybe they beat a big team in the semi-final. Maybe it was Naomh or I'm not too sure. I need to think back on that. But they definitely beat Naomh. And they ended up losing the All-Ireland semi-final. Shit, I should have said in Portlaoise to Slaughtneil. That was it. Yeah.
Don't Austin Stacks bring all their fans walk through the town?
They walk through the town. Yeah. I do like that about them.
No, it's great. But
Billy Sheehan, former Laois player, like the Pied Piper, he was out leading that. And Billy's had about 10 clubs.
Yeah. Like, can you even get friendlies at this time of year? Like, everybody else has stopped playing. Surely it's hard for them to keep it going at the same level they need to get up to playing Naomh Rangers. So yeah, I have to go with Naomh. Yeah,
I'll go Naomh too. Last one then, lads. Milltown Malbay from Clare play Clonmel Commercial. It's interesting, the Leinster Club semi-finals are a neutral venue. Munster Club semi-finals look to me to be home venues. This is in Milltown Malbay, this game. Milltown Malbay are 2-1 outsiders. Clonmel Commercial is obviously so convincing in their provincial match, 1-2 favourites. Look, I'm going to go for Clonmel Commercials here. Like I said, they're a properly good team. Took a couple of years off there, and they're back, and I think they'll be in the final.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, okay, that's it, lads. Right, that's all we've time for. We'll be back on Monday and we'll review the weekend's action. We'll talk to you then. Good luck.